And the answer is left.
Yes.
Let's go left.
When last we left, speaking of left, there is one thing I need to point out to you guys that you didn't know last session. When Sky and Carla and Lady Celine and everyone went back to the palace, you do notice that Sky was wearing the greenish scarf that used to be around Finn's neck. So that is possibly important. I really don't know if it's important, but it's things that you should know because you would have seen
So
it.
wait, it
She
was
fucking
Finn's
took my
scarf?
scarf. No, no, I'm kidding.
What a bitch.
You just fucking like Finian runs out of the goddamn safe house and just like pulls out his sword and just runs it through the girl.
Bitch,
Skewers
my
her.
scarf.
Oh my god, no. Please no.
Like when everyone else is in the room, she's all teary-eyed and silent. But when it's just Finn, she turns into this like major bitch and just takes the scarf.
Okay, so I have a quick question though,
Hmm.
in regards to Carla
Mm-hmm.
and the girls. So they're living at the palace for now. 'Cause
Correct.
It's relatively safe,
Mm-hmm.
much to Pearson's chagrin. But also, Carla is going to help Sky in trying to figure out what happened to her father. Correct.
To be more precise, she and Sky are going to help the guards try and figure out what happened. In other
Okay.
words,
I want
there's
to
the
make it clear though
Yeah.
that I don't want either of them to be going into any area that seemed hostile.
Mhm.
They should be used as consultants only. I don't want them to get swept up in some sort of weird ass madness.
The
Because-
and there'll be I'm sure that your character can be told this to lay his fears. Basically, what they're intended to use them for is they're going to have Sky kind of show them where they lived and maybe the church he worked at, but they're not taking them any place that might be considered dangerous. And Carla's there so that Sky has someone she is attached to. So it's not just a bunch of strange guards asking her questions.
Yeah.
But don't
All right.
worry, there's no intention whatsoever of them being placed in any sort of danger.
Good.
It's
All
not
right.
like, so let's take you back to where you were almost sacrificed and just
Yeah,
start from there.
so
No,
I was
that's not going to
thinking,
happen.
I'm like, and if it's just a bunch of fucking guards there, Cullimore knows. He's run to guards many days of his life. Some of them are confident, but some of them are not. And
Let's
he
put it
doesn't
this
want to
way.
take that
As
gamble with
scatterbrained
life.
as Lady Celine can be, she does actually care about people. So she's not going to...
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I
she's
know
not
she
going to make that
cares.
happen. Yeah.
Cullimore's
No,
not
yeah.
gonna get it.
So they are in as much danger as the average person walking down the street. We'll put it that way. Or at least as far as you can be assured of.
Okay.
I know that was a rather ominous way to put it, but I meant it just as in they are not going to be placed in undue harm.
Okay.
So,
Great.
when we did leave, you guys had decided to continue hunting the stones despite not necessarily knowing what the stones may do, because, and rightly so, justifying that if you have the stones, it's hard for people to do bad things with them.
Yeah. We can control them. Yeah.
And you were told of the two people that still had the stones, and hang on, because I dropped all my notes.
There's only 2 people remaining? I thought there was...
There's
We had a
Wagga,
list-
the orc mercenary,
Right.
city guard near the palace, and there's Emmerich, the master thief, who had committed some sort of crime, and that's what we're going to inspect to see whether there's any trace regarding the master thief, so that we could find him and possibly get the
Correct.
stone.
There were, to answer your question, Inferno, there were 5 stones. Lady Celine had
Yeah.
one, which you now have. You used one,
Yeah.
and
Where's that third one, though?
the one that Mila had, or Mika. Mika had one originally. Remember, she showed it to you guys.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Okay,
technically,
thank you.
there are
That's all it
2.
was.
Yeah, there are 2 in your possession. One's been used, and 2 are still out there.
Okay, great. That's what I
Um,
was wondering.
Right, and
'Cause
there
I
was
couldn't
a
fire it off 4 names.
there was a murder that they believe was done by Emmerich up in the
Yeah.
rich part of town, and you were all traveling to the scene of the crime.
Bingo.
And
Great.
that's where we left off. Do you guys want to do anything before you get to the scene of the crime?
No?
Jared
We're-
already left. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that the rest of the party caught up to you guys.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right. Important thing to note too.
Technically.
Are you taking Jack with you or not?
Sure.
And are
Oh.
you taking Taz with you?
Yeah, Taz is with me.
Okay.
I'll stop by my shop and grab Jack.
All right. It's pretty much literally on the way from where you guys are. You're just gonna go up that road. So
Which means my character would fucking wait for you, which is when the rest of the assholes.
Yeah.
God. Jesus.
Hi.
so
Jared just
Rudy
like
Apple.
standing there, just like looking up at the sky. Like, what are you doing here? Waiting.
Waiting like always.
So you guys go into the rich part of town, and you go to a rather small manor for that area of town. Hang on, what? I don't want to turn on Fog of War. What's going on here? Stop that. Roll 20. Cut that out now. All right, you go to. I don't know if you can see it, if it shows up on your screens. This little yellow circle. No.
No, I
It's not showing up on
Is
your
anyone
screens.
over it? No.
All right, the yellow
there it
house
is.
directly
It's,
above Sky. That one. There you go. You travel to that house right there. It's rather small for the rich sector, and you see a couple of guards standing outside when you arrive. And when you arrive, one of them says, "So you're the people we were told would be coming?"
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't have a whole lot of information to give you. The scene hasn't. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to word this because they wouldn't use like crime scene and fingerprints and all that. So the incident has not really been touched. It remains pretty much the way we found it. We haven't really gone in to look at it yet. We were told from higher up to wait until you got here. But what we do know is that the Baroness and her butler have been murdered, and a diamond necklace of quite some value was stolen. However, as far as we can tell, nothing else was stolen. Is there anything I can answer for you?
When was this discovered?
About 3 hours ago.
Who
It was the
discovered
sunrise.
it?
That guy right over there, and he points to one of the other guards that's leaning up against the wall, and he calls him over, and the guard, who's a very young, freckled-faced boy, comes up and says, "Yes, Sergeant?" And he says, this...
Jarek like levies the full weight of his torturer's glare upon this guy.
And he looks to you and looks back. "Yes, Sergeant?" The sergeant says, "John here found the scene. Basically, the Baroness was supposed to meet him to finalize the details for a charity event that the Baroness throws every year for the Wood Elves. She's known among the city as a great supporter of the Wood Elves, and once a year she holds a charity dinner to try and raise funds for the victims of the war. And she was supposed to meet with us for security, and she never did, so John here went to go find her, and when no one answered, he found them dead inside."
I've been in this city for a few years. Is this whole charity thing like a factually correct statement?
Yes, it is. Yes, every year the Baroness... why did I not write her name down? We'll just call her the Baroness, whatever. She holds a charity
Alice.
function once a year. It's a big to-do, and it's always collecting money for the... because the Wood Elves, and you guys would know this, the Wood Elves are freed, but they had to kick the High Elves out of their land, and they've only had their land for about a few years, and they're still trying to get up on their feet, and they really could use monetarily help, so... it's very popular among many of the nobles. And she was very popular among many of the nobles, so...
A quick question.
Mhm.
Is there much of a physical difference between Wood Elves and High Elves?
Not an enormous amount. High Elves
So
tend to
by
be...
looking as a human, I would know what Finian was unless I asked him, right?
No, you would. Generally speaking, High Elves... Okay, and actually, Finian, no, but Finian's the exception, not the rule. High Elves tend to be taller than Wood Elves, and they tend to have platinum blonde hair. Wood Elves can have platinum blonde hair, but they can also have brown hair, and they tend to be a lot shorter. Finn is really short for a High Elf.
So it could be... Oh, okay.
Yeah. Finn could theoretically pass for either or. However, most people would guess that Finn's a High Elf because of the light skin tone and the hair, despite what size Finn is.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if we ever discussed that, Kriana, but yeah, your character's kind of a runt for your species.
That's perfect. That's great. freaking loser. That's fine. Little guy.
Anyway,
That's what you think.
this is so funny.
But you would probably
anyway.
guess that that Kriana's character is a high elf.
Okay. Pearson would ask John, so you just came upon the bodies? You didn't witness anyone leaving?
No, there was no one in the house that I know of, and there were no signs of forced entry on the first floor. I don't know about up above. I saw the bodies and I ran to get the guard.
Okay.
It's a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
And then the first sergeant will be like, "You're welcome to go in and take a look. Do whatever you feel you have to do to catch this bastard. If you do need any help from us, we'll be right outside, making sure no one comes in to disturb you."
Jarek actually scrunches his brows, looking at John, and says,
So you helped the Baroness organize this charity event?
John stammers a little bit, obviously nervous, and goes, "Well, no, I was just her contact for security. We always supply guards for such events, and I was supposed to get with her to set up the security
You
for the charity."
look a little fresh face to be a security contact, John.
And the other, his sergeant, actually puts a hand on his shoulders and says, "Well, John here is young, but he's actually rather bright and has been very astute when it comes to tactics. So we actually gave him the job as more of a test to see how well he would do." And John's like, "It hasn't started off very well, I'm afraid."
No, it hasn't. This ball, does it happen on a certain day every year, or does it change?
And John goes, "Well, it happens around the same time every year. I can't say that it happens the exact same day, but it was supposed to be this upcoming week. You know what? We'll just say Saturday. I didn't actually say if Ardenfell had different days, but whatever.
Okay.
It was supposed to be this Saturday. I don't know if it's always held on the same day every year, but it's around the same time."
I see. Tell me more about what was stolen. What do you know of her actual necklace? Does she wear it for special occasions? Was it appraised? Was it insured? And does everyone know that she wears it? Or was it something that was more of a close family heirloom?
When you ask if everyone knows if she wears it, they kind of look at each other, and the older sergeant kind of rolls his eyes and says, "Oh, yes, everyone knows of her diamond necklace. It is her pride and joy that she wears to every social function she comes to. That thing is huge." And he holds up a hand. He's like, "This is like a rock." It's very impressive.
So with something like that, I'm assuming, and for the whole sake of security for the ball, there have been a few circumstances where people have tried to rob her. Yes?
And they look at each other again and
In the
say,
past.
"Actually, no. No one's really been stupid enough or skilled enough to attempt such a thing. The problem, usually, is that no one knows where it's supposed to be or where it's kept. I mean, unless she was wearing it around her neck, which no one has been silly enough to try and attack her when she's surrounded by so much security. The idea that they knew where the diamond necklace was unusual, to say the least, the guard says.
Do you know if she was wearing it at the time of the attack, or it was just in her home?
The John pipes up and he says, "Well, no, I'm not sure if she was wearing it. I wasn't, like I said, I didn't go upstairs. That was him." And he points to the other guard and he says, "Look, I looked upstairs real quick and I'm pretty sure it was taken from upstairs. There was a jewelry case that was left open that had the imprint in velvet of where the necklace is supposed to be placed. So my guess is it was taken from the box, not from around her neck. Plus, I can't imagine she would just wear this thing around the house."
Fair enough. Well, it's best that we take a look at it ourselves then. Any other questions? And he asks just to the rest of the group.
No.
Cole shakes his head. No.
No.
All right, then the guard opens the door and lets you guys in, and let me move you guys over there. There you go. You might need to zoom in just a little bit. Now, I want to make this very, very clear before I forget to make it very, very clear. I made this map particularly because I wanted you guys to be able to use the map for clues in and of itself. So you can actually treat this like a crime scene, and anything you see on the map can be treated as in that is the way it is.
Got ya. They're not just placeholders.
Exactly.
In that case, these norms can handle all of the things that norms can handle. My character, and it'll be a long time devotion while they handle other things, is going to begin to scour the entire house looking for runes, glyphs, telltale like scorch marks, or any sort of indication of distortion in the threads of magic, or the essence of it, which would stipulate that magic was involved in this robbery. If it was, then perhaps it could be traced or at least identified that a magic caster was involved in the proceeding of that, using perhaps intelligence or wisdom and a magic background.
Okay, go ahead and give me a roll. Give me your background is fine. Go with it. Which do you feel would be better, wisdom or intelligence for your character?
If it's going to be a perceptive thing, probably be wisdom.
All right, go for your wisdom. Add your wisdom, your level, and your background modifier. And just so you guys know, the stairs lead up to the second level, which is up here, down below.
Oh.
Okay. You scour the house meticulously, and you find no traces whatsoever of any magic being used at all.
Okay, that takes care of me.
Okay. Cullimore doesn't know much about solving crimes, but he knows a lot about committing them.
I should.
So he's...
I'm so sorry. I was going to say, before I go, I should at least explain a few things for you guys, because I know you can see it, but I should point it out. The two bodies up here in the corner are actually the bodies of the Baroness and her butler. They've had their throats slit, and there is blood everywhere, and there are several wounds on the Baroness. But that's all you can tell from the beginning of the room, and I just wanted to make that part clear and then go.
Okay. So, as I was saying, Cullimore knows a lot about committing crimes. So I'm going to just kind of tap into that knowledge. And there's two things, first, that Cullimore is going to use to occupy his time. The first is to search for ways of entry into this home and see if anything was disturbed. He's had to do a lot of breaking and entering himself, so he'd first check for the obvious areas of entrance and then go from there.
Okay.
When done with that, he would like to examine the bodies a little bit closer, more specifically as to the wounds and the types, and try to determine, based on their positioning and maybe some other indicators, perhaps, if he's knowledgeable enough, to know the weapon used and what the purpose of the wounds were. Like, obviously, the throat slitting is pretty clear, but the multiple wounds on the Baroness, really want to investigate.
Okay. Do me a favor. Do me a roll. And Keen, I would also suggest you do too, because as Pearson knows how to commit crimes, you're a bounty hunter. Your job has been tracking people down.
Okay.
So I would say, unless you want to do something different, I would have you roll these searches as well.
Would bounty hunter and mercenary count?
You can only use one background. You can't use two.
Okay.
So.
Well, they're basically exactly the same. So
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So I would choose bounty hunter, because bounty hunter would, many times in your career, you would be looking at crime scenes. So.
And this is a wisdom?
This is this one I would actually say intelligence. Well, you know what? No,
Okay.
go with whichever your character would be better at, honestly, because it could be a wisdom thing and it could also be an intelligence thing.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take intelligence, and can I
Okay.
use my Forged on the Street background?
Yes, you
then?
can.
Okay.
The first, what we're rolling for here is just searching for openings and entry
Methods of
points and
entry.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Both of you find that there are only two main points of entry. The door on the first floor. I assume you guys are searching the second floor as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You will find that right about where Finn and Cole are standing, there is one window in the master bedroom that has been left open. And when you examine it closely, you see that there are minor signs of it being forced open, meaning that it wasn't open from the inside, it was open from the outside, but whoever did it really knew what they were doing, and there was very minor damage to it. In Inferno, you rolled well enough that you notice a tear, a piece of cloth on the window, that it looks like it was made or part of a cloak. And the odd thing about it is that it has stains. It has stains of purple dye, and it smells a little bit of dye. And you do know that there are sections of the town, or one section in town in particular, where there are a lot of clothing dye shops.
Dye makers. Yeah.
It's a part of town where there are a lot of dye makers. So yeah. That's what you find in your role. Now, what was the other thing you wanted to search for?
I wanted to check the bodies, but I did hear Kriana speak up a little bit. Since that's going to take some time to search, it'd probably be fair to let Finn and Cole do what they like to do first, kind of so we're all doing this separately.
Is this something Cole can throw?
What?
The table?
The table? Yeah.
Yes, he could throw it. It's made out of wood, but it is very big. So he would. The only problem would be him getting his hands around it.
Okay. My investigation is complete. I'm going back downstairs.
Okay.
Finn's not an investigator. What were you guys thinking? He's gonna go sit on the couch.
Well, did you look at the desk? Because there are things I can tell you.
Okay, he'll look at the desk because he's a bit of a snoop.
It would be immediately apparent, even to Finn, that there are lots of valuables on both desks. There are gold coins, there are just jewelry, there are other baubles that may have been of interest to a thief, and you find on the desk to your left, if you're the left of the screen, that there is a jeweled case on the right-hand corner that has been opened. It does look like it may have been forced open, but again, very little damage done to it, and it does look like that's where the gem was stored. However, again, there is no around the room. There's no ransacking. There's no signs that someone was looking for anything. There's lots of valuables that are still left around. All that is out of place is the open box and the missing necklace.
Okay. All right. So, so the other thing I'd like to do is, check the bodies.
Okay.
Themselves.
Give me a roll, and same thing. You're forged on the streets.
Same thing? All right. I'll just do the same roll then.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Wow. So here's what you find out. First of all, you tell that it's most likely the cut on the throat for both of them that killed them. You find that there is no blood trail leading from the corner, which leads you to believe that, or I would say, which would suggest that they were murdered in that corner. Probably brought there and then murdered. You find that many of the cuts, the Baroness is far worse off than the butler. The butler has a few cuts on him, but mostly it was just the killing cut. The Baroness, on the other hand, has many, many cuts and stabs, many of them superficial but painful. And you also tell, because you rolled so damn well, that there is nothing that would indicate signs of any sort of struggle. There's no bruising on either of their hands. There's no scratch marks on their nails. There's nothing that would suggest...
There's no proof of restraint.
Exactly. There's nothing that would suggest they actually fought back that would justify such... Well, no, that would justify such extensive damage. So it looks like whoever did this... Also, some of them, because damn, you rolled well, some of the cuts and injuries have not bruised, which enough from your time murdering people that it was probably post-mortem. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's that.
Okay. And it was just a simple thin blade. It looked like.
Yes, like it looks like it was done by a dagger.
Right, not being hacked.
It's very slicing, and the stab wounds are small. You can tell it's a dagger or a very thin sword. But given the lengths of the cuts, the lengths of the stab wounds, you would say, especially it being in a corner, you would say this is dagger work.
Okay. I'm going to let everyone else finish up, do what they like before we all assemble together and kind of share our knowledge before I break out my findings. Well, my findings. I sound like an investigator. Before I share with what I learned.
Okay.
I would like to check this letter opener in front of me, if this is a letter opener.
Hang on a second. Check it for...
If it has been used other than...
No.
An
Nothing
opening
on that table. There's no signs of blood or anything in that bedroom. So no instruments have been used, nothing. It's just a letter opener on the table.
Okay. Sorry, something else is killing me because I really want to do something, but my character would not do it.
I
There you
understand. Anyone else, Keen? You have anything else you want to look or check? Or
Is this a table?
yes, it is a table. A
Okay,
very
when I was
fancy
down
table.
here, is this a table?
That is a very fancy table.
Okay. Moving on. Is there anything interesting on this table, or was that already discussed?
No, everything in that room has basically been discussed. The interesting thing that
Okay.
you would note, even more so than Finn, is that nothing seems out of place. It's unusual for there to be such a robbery without all of these. I mean, these valuables are in plain sight, and they're just sitting there.
Okay. I'm going to check out the butler's chamber, which I'm guessing is this.
Yeah, it's sparsely. It is less furnished. Obviously, the bed actually looks like it has not been used in quite some time, and there's not much in that room, and it is completely immaculate except for a thin layer of dust everywhere.
All right. I'll head back downstairs. And I think there's only 2 more places that haven't been checked, so I'm gonna check the kitchen.
All right. You see plenty of fruits and vegetables and cooking utensils, and nothing really out of place.
Is the fire lit? Is there anything on the fire?
We're gonna say no. It's cold.
No.
The hearth is
Okay.
cold.
All right, and then the last place. Is this lit?
No, this is also cold.
Is there anything-
If you feel the ashes, they're warm, meaning it might have been lit last night, but at this time of day, it's gone out.
And what about the mantelpiece?
Nothing out of place there. A couple of candlesticks, and that's about it.
Okay. Well, I can't think of anything else. So. Okay. Just general, like, looking over stuff. And that's pretty much it.
All right.
Do
Well,
you
I
want
think-
to? Do you want the guards to be part of this, or?
No.
Okay.
We don't want the guards to be. I was sorry. I don't want to speak for everyone. Pearson would object to the guards being a part of it because they're as much of a suspect as anyone else right now.
It's true.
I'm not quite sure if I need to roll for this, but I would like to check for motive.
For who?
I have some ideas on motive,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
I also do. I don't think I need to roll for this.
You mean like the motive of
Sorry.
the thief?
Just in general.
Oh God, no! I don't like to use rolls for that.
Okay.
You use your brains, and if your brains figure it out, then I consider it your character
From-
figuring out.
From a tactical position, killing these 2 when robbing from the upstairs makes little sense. Especially since it doesn't seem like even the murders happened around. Like if they caught him, I guess that would make sense to kill them, but doesn't seem to be that way.
Pearson would say it's not a robbery, not even close. Take it from a former, cutthroat and thief himself. If there are 1,000 things in here that you would want to steal, and sure, the necklace is valuable, and it can be sold or hawked, but frankly, something that large and something that identifiable, something that everyone's seen her watch, seen her wear, you can't sell it in Whiterun. Sorry, not Whiterun, Whitebridge. Skyrim. So, what I figured out, well, not what I figured out, but what makes me lead to believe this is that this was personal. Very, very personal. They took something that she really desired, and they marked her body. And he whoever's interested enough, he shows on the body here some of these cuts. First of all, a lot more than what was on the butler, and some of these were done after she was dead. And I'll look over to Keen and say, much like what you did to Neelix, sometimes emotions get high and you attack something that's already dead.
And Keen will just nod.
Since there weren't any sort of marks of restraints, it was clear that the person was either so powerful that they knew struggling or trying to resist was worthwhile, or more likely they knew the person and they lied to them. They just said, stay in this corner, I came here to get what I wanted, and then I'll leave. And then he killed them. So we're looking for someone who's an enemy, who has a grudge against them, and someone that they know and they trust. Or it's a person who's working on behest of that individual. But like I said, I have a feeling this mysterious individual is someone that they personally know. Because when a stranger comes into your home, you're not calm and staying in a corner. That's just not how people act.
At this point, Jarek snaps out of his meditative trance and says,
No magical interference. Whoever did this did it with skill and personal charm, rather than the aid of anything else.
But not too much skill there, Jarek. And Cullimore will take out this small, tiny scrap of cloth. And he says, this was found on the windowsill. It must have snagged when he left or when he entered. Or she. You can't assume. But it smells like it was recently dyed. And this particular purple comes from a specific district. It's probably our only lead, but we have to know what we're looking for.
You said nothing else on the desk in regards to valuables were touched?
Yeah, from what I saw.
Yeah, that's true.
Jarek gives a pointed look at Keen.
Might as well take them.
Good idea.
Cullimore won't say no to that, but he will say if we are going to rob this dead woman, I suggest we don't get too greedy. We can assume one or two things that go missing. Maybe it's one of the guards who took it, right? But if we scoop up everything, it'll pin right back to us.
We have the writ, Lady Celine's permission to do whatever is required.
Sweet, I'm on it.
Including funding this.
All right.
May I put some information into Keen's head as a bounty hunter? You do know.
You can have Jack say this. If you really want to.
Okay, yeah, sure. Jack will say, I don't mean to be a naysayer for this, but these rich folks tend to have all their goods accounted for somewhere, and in my experience with Keen here, in such crimes, they are generally given a full accounting of. So while you might be able to pin it on some guards, and you might have a writ, whatever that is, I don't know how much trouble that would actually get you out of. But what do I know? I'm just a bird.
Yes, you
Jarek
are.
is still giving like a pointed look at Keen, since Jarek figures he's the person who has the biggest problem.
Wait, yeah, Keen
Finn?
has the.
Yes, I'm the one with the writ.
Oh shit.
You're the one who's the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Finn, can you please go and put those back? Thank you.
Jarek shrugs, and he'll actually peek his head outside the door at the guards.
And then Jack will actually fly over to Finn's shoulder and land there and say, look, I'm not saying you had to put everything back. I'm just saying.
Listen, stop it. Well, I have some morals. Finn looks back and stares at the
Jack
stuff
looks
he put back.
Jack looks as much as a bird can, as if he's loving this entire thing.
Damn it. That conniving little bird. What an asshole.
Just give me a moment to relish this. Okay.
Is
All right.
John out here?
Put everything back. Everything's back in its
Yes,
spot
John is out here.
for the most part.
Thank you.
John, and then waving a gloved hand and a come hither gesture.
John
Is he
very
doing-
nervously complies and comes over and says, yes, my lord?
You were handling security for the charity.
Yes, my lord.
Now, while no one might have attempted such a foolish gesture as stealing the necklace, the Baroness in her time, particularly with her gaudy nature and her ex- exorbitant attitude towards charity, towards wood elves, might have resulted in a few undesirable enemies, politics, family drama, all sorts of nature. And naturally, if you were the consultant of security in this front, you might have been aware of interests, people whom the Baroness did not like, did not want at this event. Would you care to share them?
Of course, my lord. Unfortunately, that would be a rather long list, as, well, almost any high elf in the city wouldn't be very happy for a charity thrown for wood elves. But
Right, but you would have priorities that you would look for, because as an astute master of tactics who is aspiring to be a leader in the free city of Whitebridge, you wouldn't waste your time on everyone.
he nods eagerly, wanting to please.
Pearson will slide up next to the talking Jarek, and he says, a good lead is to find out not only people who don't like her, but people that she knows on a personal level that they had ideological or personal problems.
And
So not
John,
just anybody off the street.
John
that she
again
knows.
nods vigorously and says, "It's funny you should mention that, because in my assessment, the biggest threat that they had was their son. I mean, there were lots of people who wished her harm, sure, but they wouldn't be invited to the event or have access to the event. But her own son is a security threat that I can't really account for. It's a well-known fact that they don't get along well. She cut him off from her vast wealth some time ago, and he's always been rather resentful for it, but he's always invited to such events because, nobles, they have to keep up their family appearances and all that. So my actual biggest threat on my list of possible objectives would be him. I don't think that he hated her this much, though. Sure, they didn't like each other. Maybe hiring someone to steal something I could see, or even attempting it himself if he was stupid enough, but murder? And his voice cracks.
Is John being the honest sort here? I've handled a lot of torture.
Yeah.
Day.
He looks like he's being honest and actually eager to help, if not a little nervous of you.
In that case, Jarek will flash like his keen, dazzling smile, and like the whites reflect off the rays of the sun as they're in the sky, and say,
Fantastic. Where does he dwell?
John looks at you and says, I can lead the way, sire."
You don't have to. Does he dwell within the noble realms? Has he been consigned to the slums?
Oh, no,
Right.
family appearances and all that. He is about 3 streets down that direction, a bright blue house, only 1 story, can't miss it.
All right.
in that case,
And
go ahead.
And Kellamore will say, the sun's a good start, but still assemble that list for us, John.
And John says, "Of course. Actually, I'm still doing it. It would seem that the Baroness Trask wants to continue on with the charity anyway." She says, in honor of the Baroness, which I don't even know how she knows she's dead, but you know how travel news is. So it looks like I'm still going to be performing security for such a...
Sorry, who's taking over the
Alright,
charity now?
I forgot the name of this Baroness, but it doesn't matter because she's dead. But Baroness Trask.
Trask.
Yes.
Okay. There's suspect number 2.
And he doesn't look very pleased by it. He's like, so it looks like I'm still going to be pulling security for...
Jarek tilts his head.
Why are you so displeased? Does Baroness Trask have a unfavorable reputation?
No, John says. I hardly know anything about her. I just, after this whole ordeal, I'd rather not be saddled with this kind of responsibility so quickly. Oh, never mind me, my lord. I speak too much.
After this whole ordeal, what you have been saddled with,
And Jarek leans back from his lean as if some epiphany has crossed his features. He's like,
most fascinating.
John just stares at him. As
Alright.
you say, my lord.
All right, you can go now, John.
Thank
Yep.
you. And then he goes,
like the sickly green, like, you know, like death light will light up behind like Jarek's silvery eyes as like John
My
turns away.
God. Poor John.
He's a guard. He's lucky he could be dead in the corner.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then Jarek will dismiss the whole fucking thing, like as soon as John walks away. Says, "Oh, that was exhausting."
Yeah. Well, I suppose it'd be best to case out the son's place, but I don't know how effective it's going to be just to confront him off the get-go.
Now, we have a difficulty here in that while we might have a writ from the leader and ruler of this fair city, she is not its sole controller, and nobility has a way of moving and altering things, regardless of whoever's in power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another pointed look at Keen.
What?
You're the one who's experted in these affairs, Stormsire. Oh, where do we go next?
I thought we were gonna check out the sun.
Jarek
would
just
make
like,
sense.
like,
All right, then, lead the way.
"It's right there." Jack points up to the sun, and then flies away before Keen can hit him.
You fucking bird! I swear.
Okay.
Let's head out.
All right. As we're heading out there, Pearson can't help but muse and be like, you know, on the other side of the coin, it seems a little bit trickier. No wonder it was so easy to outsmart the guards. Typically, if I come up with any other revelations, I'll let you know. But all I can think of is, if I were to do this, what would I do to make sure I wouldn't get caught, right?
Jarek will then pipe up.
You know, actually, I would have figured inspecting the cloth might have been of more interest. Does anyone we particularly know of live in that sector who might have had a hand in such a thing? Does the sun live in that sector? I don't know this city that well.
No. I can do maybe a background check.
You wouldn't even have to, because John told you that he is in the rich sector and the dye shop is most certainly in the poor sector.
Yeah, exactly. So, but of course that cloak could have come from anywhere. The person doesn't have to actually live in the dye sector to own the cloak, right?
Correct.
We just need to pin the wearer of visiting that district.
And to be
Now-
fair, because I may not have described it well enough, the cloak itself is not purple. It just has purple stains of dye on it.
Okay. So what I'll suggest to the group, a good way maybe to track that down, is one of us posing, I don't know, as the owner of this piece of fabric. Say a family pet, or maybe a weasel, and he points over to Finn's companion, tore up our precious cloak, and all that we have left that he didn't eat was this little scrap. And we go from store to store asking, who sells it? You know, who has it? And once we locate an actual direction, maybe we can get our eyes on a logbook and see who purchased it in the last little while. It would have to be fresh since the dye still reeks. That might be another good way to take a lead.
Might be, especially if no one spotted any tracks beyond what was at the window.
That's an excellent question. That's an excellent observation. We might as well check outside where that window is. Maybe we might be able to spot something else.
All right, everyone, give me a check using your intelligence, your backgrounds that would be applicable. Finn, yours, use your soldier background. Cole, use your
Ooh!
wow, use half of your daredevil background, because you know what? No, you have what, throwing and daredevil, right?
I have throwing, daredevil, tactician, and tracking.
Wait. I'm sorry, guys who have tracking, use your full tracking background. That's what it's for.
You know, that was something that I wasn't going to suggest while we were in there, but I was like, you know, all these rangers here, I figured if they might have tracking.
I completely
But as soon
forgot.
as we left, I was like Jarek is gonna look up at the second floor, like, I ain't fucking going up there.
That's what was killing me, because my character, like, he doesn't know houses very well, so he's not gonna be like, oh, I know exactly how it's supposed to look, and this is now, like, he can't do that.
I
Right.
can climb it.
be fair, it didn't even cross my mind.
but you can, at least, especially with your tracking skill, look for footprints and tracks and signs of disturbing even outside the house. So you can.
So I like to think of that like that 10 is just like Jared being derisive and looking at the others and then looking at the roof like I ain't getting over there.
All right.
Aw.
That's fine. Enough of you made a good enough roll. Good lord. Pearson and Keen. You guys notice
Yay.
that there are no tracks on the ground outside of the window in the grass. Of course, on the pavement, there's no way to tell. But in the grass outside, there are no tracks. There are, however, a couple of shingles on the roof on the other side of the street that have fallen to the ground in such a way that it looks like they may have been pushed off of or broken off
Yeah, they
or
picked-
something of the kind.
Or somebody was jumping from them.
There's a possibility.
I know someone who's.
What's the distance
I can jump.
between the two roofs?
About 10 feet.
Okay. That's
I
not
know
an
someone
impossible
who's
jump.
flexible and who's very good at climbing. Cole, do you mind crawling up that
Fit looks
woodworking
down.
And
there?
while, like halfway through this sentence, like he is already like trying to scale this
Okay.
building.
Yeah, bye, Cole.
Give me a. Give
I
me.
have terrain, whatever.
Oh, terrain stunt. Well, you're not in battle, so yeah, sure. We'll say you climb it easily. You find which roof are you climbing? The house that was robbed, or the house on the other side of the street?
The closest one, which is probably the house that's been robbed.
Okay.
Can I climb the other house?
Sure.
Okay. I just wanna
And
get a chance to
and for
climb.
you, I'm not even gonna make you roll for that. For your dexterity is flipping insane. Finn, you actually find quite a few handholds, and you get up there. Cole, same way. Cole, on your side, you do see the roof itself on this side, where the house was stolen, has a small kind of a garden, like a window garden. With plants and soil and all that outside the window. And you do see that the window that was pried open was obviously pried open from the outside. You can see more marks and damage from the outside. And you see a small-ish footprint impressed in the soil. It looks like a boot. There's no defining features for it other than it obviously was not from an orc or a dwarf or another large. It was either, and it wasn't from a halfling, so bigger than a halfling, smaller than an orc or a dwarf, so probably a human or an elf of some kind, or perhaps another creature. You can probably
That
rule out
wears-
goblins and the like because they don't generally wear shoes. But that's what you can tell. And Finn, on the other side, you do see that it does look like the shingles were broken, almost from what you know from your parkouring, almost like they were broken on impact. And what you would guess is if you were to make a running jump from the roof of the other house, that's about where you would land and run from there.
Is there another house nearby that looks jumpable?
Yes, actually. The houses are close enough that the average person would have trouble, but you feel fairly confident you could do it quite easily.
Yeah, I'm gonna start jumping from roof to roof, kind of examining them.
All right, give me,
Cold
if you're going to be
drawing.
doing that a lot, go ahead and give me a dex check. Put your
Okay.
parkour background, your level, the 2 for Taz.
Oh god. Okay.
So
whoa, whoa,
basically,
whoa.
make the roll that you would make when Cole throws you.
2. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh.
That's the easiest way
do
to
I
do
have
it.
that? Do I have a macro of that? Do I have? No, I don't.
While you're rolling and jumping, Cullimore
Six.
is going to point over to the jumping Cole and Finn, and say to Jarek and Keen that it's likely that this is the way they escaped, and taking a look at the sun might not be a bad idea. If he's a portly sort or looks unathletic, I doubt he would have done it himself. Hell, I don't even know if I could make half these jumps.
Finn, you just barely made the roll.
Oh, thank God.
So you
And
you
by the
do
looks
hop.
of it, Finn too.
You do hop from roof to roof, and you are able to tell that basically you pick a path of what you would take if you were doing this. And you pick that path, and every once in a while you'll see a broken slat or a disturbed shingle or something like that that leads you to believe that you are somewhat close to the same route this other person may have taken, which lets you know that whoever did this is no stranger to rooftop hopping. So either they know the city really well, or they just are extremely dexterous like you. It could be either or. It could be someone who's just been in the city their whole life and knows these rooftops, or it could be someone who's just incredibly dexterous.
Interesting.
Or it
Okay.
could be a dwarf with magical shoes. I mean, I don't. But more likely than not, those are what those are the conclusions you could draw from what you see.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure if you heard the squee, but I am joining in on the merriment of joining.
Oh,
jumping
I did
from
not.
rooftop
I did not
to
hear that.
rooftop.
You roll as well, and roll your
No.
daredevil and your dexterity and level.
So that would be okay. Roll, 20, not minus plus. That'd be terrible.
Awkward.
Okay. You actually you don't fall or anything, but you have so much trouble keeping up from Finn, who is doing this almost effortlessly, that it's all you can do to actually keep up with Finn. You don't really notice much. So you keep up with her, but you don't really. That's taking all your concentration. So you don't notice what she's picked
I
up on.
don't care.
Yeah.
I just want to get the practice in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Finn's gonna turn around to Cole and give him a high five, like, "Yeah, it was fun."
Cole will very much in the moment high five and be in glee.
I will say, however, after about 4 or 5 rooftops, the trail, so to speak, starts to go cold. You don't start to see the damage anymore, and it's just that, maybe you went on the wrong roof. Maybe there's 100 different ways you could go, because you see a lot of different paths that could be taken. So the trail goes cold 4 or 5 houses down.
I guess we'll go back to the group then and relay the information that.
Jarek's holding his temples.
Pearson actually has his arms crossed, but he looks rather impressed.
Hi.
Hello.
I don't suppose you found a dagger up there by chance in your excursion.
Sorry, I got a little carried away there. Yeah, it looks like whoever did this is either really good at jumping or just knows the town really well and is good at jumping.
So-
Well,
So they're good at jumping. Gotcha.
Yeah. Not good as me, though, but, probably decent.
I can give you approximation of their foot size.
Okay.
Really?
No.
And he holds up like 2 of his hands and goes like this big.
Jarek, lifts the brow and says,
I don't suppose you saw any more of those prints next to that one.
Squee, do I see
Nope.
more than one?
No, because like I said, it's a window garden.
has
There was
one
only
leg.
room for that one print, so no
Okay.
other prints.
Sorry, he's just gesturing with his hands.
All right, what you see
is it
is
male or female?
yeah, the size would be a small-ish human, not freakishly small, but not a huge human. In other words, the foot would be smaller than yours, Cole. A bit bigger than your
Everything's
wife's.
smaller than
So yeah, I know, but basically, it could be a smallish human or a normal-sized
Big lady
elf.
or small man? Oh, or a normal-sized elf.
Yeah, a
okay.
normal-sized elf, but probably not a
Elf
halfling,
is under
and
human.
probably not like an orc, like I said. So
Okay.
Jarek snorts and says,
I don't suppose any wood elves from the charity wanted to kill the Baroness, did they?
Who are you asking? How would any of us know this?
he's just
I don't
snorting and
fo-
saying it
yeah.
aloud.
Yeah, Cullen Moore's like, I don't follow the nobility. In fact, this is the closest I've ever got to one of their houses that I wasn't breaking into myself.
I like how your
do
voice
have-
got quieter and quieter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jarek looks
Well-
pointedly at Keen.
Hey, I've been out of the loop for a few years. I haven't really been following much.
My suggestion is, why don't we just quickly kill 2 birds with 1 stone? We have someone approach the the son's place, maybe Keen, since you do have experience doing this, just ask some very simple questions. Nothing to accuse him of the murder, nothing of the sort. Just more asking like, "Well, are you okay? Are you safe? You know, the guard has hired me to keep an eye on you," something like that. Just get it and look this guy over and see if he himself would be able to do what Finn and Cole did. While we maybe check out, well, then you can meet up with us and we can check out the dye district maybe. Could do with the tarnished, sorry, the torn, fabric idea of trying to hunt it down where it was purchased from.
I guess we could do that. I don't like splitting the party, but I guess.
No,
we could
no,
do
no,
that.
no. We don't need to split up. It's
Jarek, Jarek
it'd be
smiles like,
You don't have to be alone, Keen.
Listen, Jarek, hold up a second. We don't want, if the son is guilty, we don't want him suspicious. It'd be rather suspicious if a bounty hunter, an ex-con, an orc, an elf, and you, with all due respect, all show up at his doorstep. It's going to raise alarm bells. King can go by himself, and we can just hold back.
Okay.
Then you can get out with us in the group, and we can all venture down there together to the districts.
That's what
To
I
the
meant.
dye-
You didn't have to be alone.
Yeah.
I actually do have a few more questions before we go.
All right.
Go
What do you
ahead.
think?
And
Cool.
I'm going to pull back to one of the guards.
Mm-hmm.
At least,
John or
either-
the sergeant?
Whatever one's closer, probably the sergeant if I had to pick.
Okay,
I guess.
sergeant. Let me get into
Alright.
my sergeant persona here.
So, who is most likely to steal a valuable gem in this town?
I'm sorry. Could you be a bit more specific? We have quite a healthy black market here.
They sure do.
I don't have enough fingers on my hands or yours.
Is there a particular person who goes after high-end, high-stakes marks around
Well, yeah,
famous paintings?
Emmerich Cavern Ground, but that's who we assume did this. The only one that I can think of that consistently targets hard-to-get valuable items that are more status symbols than value would be Emmerich Cavern Ground. We've
What is
tracked...
his general motive when he steals things? Does
Do
he
you want
leave
my
trails of
personal opinion?
bodies?
Because the official statement is we have no idea. But personally, having tracked this bastard for a few years, I think he just does it to show off. I don't think the money is important to him. I think that he just wants to show how good he is.
I wanted to make sure that, is he a man who usually kills? Or woman?
He looks a little odd at that and says, not usually. It's not like Emmerich's never killed before. But most of the time, no. And usually not like this.
Alright.
Most of the time, if Emmerich has killed someone, it's been because something went wrong. If you get my meaning. Maybe we set up a sting for him and he found out, or someone came in the room when they weren't supposed to. But usually, if he pulls it off without a hitch, no one dies. This time is different because we didn't find it until hours after it was done.
Right.
Sorry, when Cole went back to have this conversation with the guard, it was be fair for us to come and listen
Absolutely
as well?
fair. Yeah,
Or-
sure. You can join
Okay,
in.
good. I don't want to interrupt. I
No,
just
no.
want to make sure I know this knowledge because we should talk about this. Keep going, Cole.
Well, that's really all the information I was going to need from you. Thank you for your patience.
Of course, my lord. If you need anything else, let me know.
And I'll turn to the group and go, I think we have 2 people that we're looking for.
What?
Oh, sorry, we're picking up, but I guess why don't you explain it to Finn?
I have an intelligence of -1, you guys.
Well, it looks like somebody broke in to steal the very particular gem. Not for wealth,
Nope.
Not for if it was specifically the son, even if he had all these skills and whatnot to do all of this, he would probably take everything, not just the jewel, because he needs money. If it was just the robber, he would just take the jewel and not kill them. If it's somebody for revenge, they wouldn't just take a jewel after killing them.
Why not? It's I know a lot of killers who take souvenirs.
Not without disturbing everything else.
I don't know. And
too
second of all,
professional.
your assumption that the kid wouldn't kill them because the kid wouldn't have actually stolen the gem otherwise, because if he's is he an only kid? Because he would
Yeah.
just inherit everything anyway. He would
He is
inherit
no,
everything
but he's
anyway.
been disowned. So he is the
Oh,
only
that's
kid,
right.
but he has been disowned.
So he could.
So
hold a
there you go.
grudge.
That's a huge motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're thinking, Cole, but here's the tricky thing. Emmerich, from what we heard from the guards and what I've heard on the street about him, is that he's so good he doesn't have to worry about killing. Only if things go really, really bad. Things didn't go bad here. This was personal and this was brutal. So although the stealing of the gem matches up with him, the rest of it doesn't. So I think we have a copycat.
The sergeant would actually say, not to interrupt your line of thinking at all, but I thought you might want to
Yeah.
know. I agree with what you said. However, it should be pointed out that when Emmerich has had occasion to kill, it has been this brutal. In other words, he's trying to say, like, how do I even say this? He doesn't like to kill, but he has no problems killing people in the most awful ways if it means drawing attention somewhere else. So that kind of murder, I'm not surprised to see. The only thing I'm surprised at is the circumstance.
Gotcha.
Just in case you need.
Thanks, Sergeant. And Cullimore, because of his dislike, his intrinsic dislike of not all guards, but maybe of this particular one, maybe encourages the group to stay away from earshot of the sergeant while we continue to discuss. If you
Cole
guys
has
want to go
no mind
along.
with that.
I don't
Okay.
care.
I'm fine.
Yeah.